Let me be frank for 1 second, partner. I hate people. You want to go after Bill Williamson, do ya?
You know Bill? Either we do this right now, or I put a bullet in you and get on with my day.
Don't be like that, sir. This is the worst plot I ever heard of.
Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Step in front of a runaway train, just to feel alive again. Pushing forward through the night, aching chest and blurry sight.
Yeah, so wait, just to be clear.
It's so far, so far away.
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I'm Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
Shaboy Rasco.
It is indeed. Rasco, we are here today to discuss a fan film. What fan film are we discussing?
Red Dead Redemption, Seth's Gold fan film.
Indeed, indeed. Now, it's funny because we did the Civ video right before this, and then we're doing this. And like last year, we didn't do fan films during History Month because I didn't feel there were enough period piece appropriate things. And so we'd be like half done if we just picked these last two back in November, but you know, shit happens. Okay, Rasco, what made you want to pick this?
I was really struggling to think of a fan film to pick, and I didn't want to choose something. I wanted to think of something that we hadn't picked from yet, like some sort of franchise or any sort of universe of characters or anything that we could find that we hadn't done yet. And I was like, you know what? Let's see if there's a randomly a Red Dead Redemption fan film that's any good. And so I found this one.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I'd seen this pop up a couple times, but I don't know anything about Red Dead Redemption aside from just vaguely it's kind of like GTA, but in the Old West. And so I'd never watched it, or never played it, never picked this for that reason. This is a pretty impressive feat for a fan film. And this kind of gets to why there aren't many period piece fan films, is because that shit's really hard to pull off on a fan film budget. I mean, just how many fan films have we talked about where it's shot in the streets or in the woods or in a warehouse? And it's those things are all reasonably easy because, you know, they're cheap locations to film at. But with period pieces, with the exception of Predator Dark Ages, I mean, finding locations for some of this stuff is damn near impossible.
Yeah. It's really, really crazy.
Yeah, and so I was really, really pretty pleased with this. The only thing that was weird location-wise is the phone wires, the phone lines, electrical wires and stuff.
Uh-huh. I noticed those. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure. Those were a thing to one extent or another in the Old West.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd be all the way out there where they were shooting, given the time period, but...
I don't know. So here's the thing. I am familiar with Red Dead Redemption, not extremely but I played the game a crap ton when it first came out, and I also played the DLC Undead Nightmare. So I'm kind of familiar with Red Dead Redemption. And one of the things I remember about it is on the back of the box, the description of the game, it has like a recap, like a kind of like a description of the plot, and it says like the West is dying. And so like one of the things about Red Dead Redemption, it's like towards the end of the Wild West, and so there's like some newer technologies, and I don't know if the phone lines are in the game or not, but I noticed them. I did like see those, and I can't remember if those are in the game or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell whether or not it's in the game, but it is something that, like, you definitely don't think of when you think of the Old West, right? So just, like...
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure if there was a way to not shoot them, or to, you know, like, they said they did this in Adobe Premiere and After Effects and everything, and I know for a fact you can take stuff like that out, just depending on how much time you want to spend fixing things, but you can take stuff like that out. So I don't know, I'm a little of two minds on it. They're not like so distracted. It's not like a car driving through the scene or anything like that, but that was just one thing.
Plane.
Yeah, right. That was just something I noticed. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird to see, but at the same time it's a period piece. I don't know like how much you could really do where you wouldn't have to deal with something like that for a fan film. And then it's also worth noting, like, again, there were telegraph lines and things like that in the Old West. I'm not entirely sure if they were strung up the way that we do them now. That part I'm unfamiliar with. But, like, generally speaking, it's just cinema has kind of made us believe certain things, like how many movies you see where they got the swinging saloon doors in Western, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those were not a thing. Like, those doors existed for like 200 years earlier. So like, it's this thing where Hollywood has messed with our perception of like how things actually were, and it's just all it's a whole mess.
Interesting.
So I don't know. That was something that just stood out to me. And we have spent an abhorrently long amount of time talking about phone lines. And what is otherwise a pretty damn good fan film. I would say, like, even having not played the game, I feel like it is almost maybe a little too much of the game.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, when they go to the crack shot thing, like, I had to look up what that was. But when they go to that shot, it just feels so out of place.
Yeah, it's weird.
It reminds me of the Doom movie, where it's like the best scene in the movie when they do it all first person, but it's so out of place.
Yeah, it's really weird. I agree. So, like, the other thing I don't know about is I think this is supposed to be, because of how the game ends, this isn't like a post the game. I think this is like a mission from the game that they turned into a fan film.
It is.
I think okay. So I didn't remember like all the way back from when I played the game, but it did seem kind of familiar, and so that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, I watched all the behind the scenes for this, and they actually show some of the cinematics from the game of what they're recreating.
Okay, I remember. All right, that's cool. Well, so I was right about that then. All right. Well, yeah, I agree about that one shot. What was it called? Because I don't remember what it was called. Is it like the Dead Eye or something like that?
Yeah, it was like Crack Shot or Dead Eye or something like that. Where it goes red and you get the X's.
Yeah, it's just a game mechanic that it's really cool when you're playing the game when you use that. And so like I think a lot of people kind of maybe like they feel like they expect to see that and like it needs to be there. I don't know. I almost feel like you could do the screen kind of goes red and then just don't have like the X's or something like that. Or if you want to do it almost like an Edgar Wright movie. Like make it like really stylized when it happens. Like when that happens, it'd just be really cool.
Well, I think it is really stylized when it happens. It's just like it's the fact that there is nothing else like that in the entire fan film. It stands out so much.
That's fair.
That's the thing. Is it just if you like the game and everything, I'm sure it's a really cool moment to see. But just seeing it on its own in the context of the fan film, it's like, that's a really specific call out to the game. I'm trying, like, a lot of video game movies do this. I'm trying to think of, like, some of the things, because Doom did it. You had, there's some stuff like that. Like, Prince of Persia does the time thing, but the problem with that movie is it doesn't do the time travel enough. There's like 3 times that he uses the dagger the whole damn movie. It's pointless. Anyway, I don't know. There's just like, it's something I've seen before, and every time I see it, it kind of takes me out. So, I don't know. I'm kind of iffy on it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel they did in capturing the tone of Red Dead Redemption, since you've actually played the game?
It's kind of perfect. It was like literally, okay, so like I have to say this. When I first clicked on this, I had it in like a lower resolution, and I like turned it up to 1080p. And when I had it in that lower resolution, for some reason, when like I first opened it, like I literally thought it was like gameplay footage that was gonna like transition into like a fan film. And I was like, wait a second. And I turned it up, and then I started it over again, because like the first time I just like clicked on it and I didn't really watch it, and I like walked away, and then I came back and I restarted it, and it was like, I was like, wait a second, this isn't gameplay. This is like literally the fan film, and like the resolution was properly displaying it now, and I could I was like, oh wow, this actually looks awesome. This is like, I thought this was the game.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, it looks like, everything looks like it's right out of the game, which is really cool. I like that. The shots were really great. They got the right kind of environment for, the wilderness, the West. Everything looks like that. Looks good. I think this was shot in, they say it in the making of, it's either shot in Spain or Mexico.
Oh,
I'm
really?
gonna say Mexico just because of the mountains. And I don't think Spain is a particularly mountainous country.
Yeah, it'd probably be expensive to get to Spain unless actors lived there already.
Well, everyone in the crew, except for the main actors, speaks Spanish. So
Okay, well
and
then maybe
one of their other videos that they did, it's like another fan film, is GTA Madrid.
Okay.
So that would be in Spain. So I'm just not sure which one of it. Which one?
All
it
right. Well,
was.
then never mind. It would make sense either way.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I'm not sure where they shot this. Then I'm gonna just go with Mexico, just because of the mountains. I could entirely be wrong. Yeah, I thought it looked exactly like the game, which is kind of cool to see. The story that they chose, this is a weird criticism to have, but since I'm not a fan of the game, I just didn't feel very interested in the story being told, though.
Yeah. That's the weird thing about it, is like, it's kind of like, it's made like there is like a episode prior to this, and there will be an episode post to this, because like that's how the game is, right? So it's like you do a bunch of missions with someone, and like each mission kind of establishes something new about whatever character it is, or it like changes the relationship between you and whoever you're doing a mission for when you're playing a game like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at this, and it's interesting because it kind of like it is just like a mission from the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very simple in that way. And whereas like when you're playing the game, you've been playing the game for hours probably, you've met a whole bunch of characters that you've like done a bunch of missions with and know a whole lot about, and like you're gonna learn more about this character, and so you have more reason to care. Whereas like in this, it's just like, this is like a one on its own kind of piece, and it's pretty good, but it does seem like it kind of fits into something bigger, because it technically would if it was the game. This like story is a part of something much bigger.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's that guy that shows up at the end that, he was going after the whole time, and he runs away. And I'm just like, okay, who is he? Why is he important to the character?
Yeah, and I totally forget, honestly, from the game.
Yeah, and like, that's not a problem if you're a fan of the... Sorry about that. That's not a problem if you're a fan of the series, of the games. And to be honest, if you're not, you probably shouldn't be watching a fan film, and I'm saying that to myself. Unless, I don't know, you do like reviews of fan films, and then you therefore have to watch one that someone else chooses. So it's just one of those things. It's like, and I don't know, like, I feel like really good fan films, though, can transcend that, where, like, you just have to know a franchise exists and a little bit about it to be able to watch a really good fan film. I'm trying to think of stuff that applies to. You know, DBZ, Fall of Men did that. Like, you were able to enjoy that even though you're not a fan of Dragon Ball Z. You have some vague understanding of Dragon Ball Z, but you were able to enjoy it, the fan film.
Yeah, I knew enough about it to, like, at least be able to understand what I was looking at to some degree.
Yeah, Superman 1-on-1. That's a really good fan film, and all you have to know is Superman is a reporter in this off time named Clark Kent.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you have something like this where it is so steeped in the...
Even Predator Dark Ages kind of fits into that.
Yeah, certainly. Another period piece. When you have something like this that's so, like, rooted in the story, I'm kind of having a similar thing to you with the Dawn of the Dalek fan.
Yeah.
Wait, what was that called? Was it Dawn of the Daleks?
Or no, was it like Dalek Out of Time or something like that?
Yeah, whatever that one was. The Doctor Who CGI fan film that started Dalek. Like, I really like that as a Doctor Who fan because it actually, like, makes a really cool workaround for the continuity of the show. But you, as not a Doctor Who fan who can't appreciate it for that level, it's diminished for you on a story level as your ability to enjoy it. And that's kind of the thing I'm having here, where I'm like, I don't know anything about these characters. So I'm like, yes, it's well shot, it looks cool, the action's really good. When that Gallic gun, been watching too much DPC. When that Gatling gun is revealed and he starts shooting them all from the back of the carriage, that was really, really cool. It just feels like a really cool, fun Western. But because I don't know enough about the characters or understand the situation, it doesn't really work for me.
Yeah, it's interesting, dude. Rockstar's games, Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, those would be, you could translate those to movies and they could be really cool movies. They really could.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see more of this fan film. Like, what you said earlier, I think really fits, where it feels like just an episode in a series or something, as opposed to just a standalone fan film on its own. And unfortunately it does not. And they put a lot of hard work into this, so I don't expect them to shoot some other stuff.
Oh yeah, it's not like, why didn't you guys think of this? It's obviously like understanding why this is like a one-off piece. It's understandable.
Yeah, and my only thing would be, if they knew, I guess, if you know you're only going to be able to make one, I feel like it should be more of a complete story. Like, maybe they're planning to fundraise and do a second installment of this or something, and, you know, if they are, more power to them. But I feel like if there's a reasonable chance you're only going to be able to make one, it should be a complete story.
Yeah, it's a matter of walking that line of staying true to what it is that you're making versus, like, the video game side of it versus thinking about it in terms of, like, a complete fan film piece. And maybe that's kind of the biggest flaw maybe in general with this might literally be just that sometimes there are things that are kind of jarring about it because it's kind of trying to align itself with the continuity of the game a little bit too much. And so you've got, like, for example, the weird kind of like red splash screen with, like, the aiming and then quick revolver shooting kind of like thing that's from the game. It's a mechanic from the game. You have that, the Deadeye, whatever. And then you also have, like, this weird kind of story choice where it's kind of like just a mission from the game. And that's interesting in that, like, both of those are kind of maybe just because it's wandering a little bit too much into kind of like being fan service for people that like the game versus kind of trying to think of itself as a piece. And that's like really nitty gritty stuff that ultimately doesn't really matter because it's so good. But
yeah, like this wouldn't be a conversation we were having if like this was shot, you know, right next to a highway where we keep seeing like trucks drive by or something.
If this was the lost episode of Geeky Gentlemen where we reviewed that Friday the 13th Jason Curse of Jason fan film, if this was that, then if it was like that level, then we probably wouldn't be talking about this.
Yeah, I think the problem with it is it's so good that it's so good on so many technical levels and stuff that you're just kind of like you want more, but at the same time the story doesn't really make you want to come back to more.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't have a problem making the story just a mission from the game. I just have more of a problem that like he clearly wants something out of this, and I just have no idea what. So, like, I'm, like, just confused and don't understand the stakes by the end of this. And so, like, I tried watching the mission this is based off of, and, like, the gameplay is just too damn long. I got through, like, half of it, and I was like, oh, fuck God, no, I don't need to see a whole chariot race.
Yeah.
They cut the chariot race out of the mission, I'll tell you that. Anyway.
How dare they not have a chariot race?
Yeah, what the hell? Cheap.
It's not too much to ask for.
I know. Alright, so what do you think of the performances in this? Because I thought the performances were probably some on the weaker side for fan films.
Some of them were fine. So like here's like I think the guy who plays I think the main character's name in Red Dead Redemption is John Marston. I could be wrong about that, but John Marston, the main character, he it's really funny. The actor literally delivers his lines almost exactly like the character in the game does, and I almost kind of like that because can I get the sense that like he's not like John Marston's not a good guy, but he's like trying to maybe he could be a good guy, but he doesn't really mean it, and he just kind of like does the role of being a kind of good guy, and so like. He just kind of like says things and he talks with this very kind of like flat tone all the time, and the actor actually does that, and I actually really liked that. So I liked the lead performance. I think some of the other performances maybe feel a little stilted in compared to his. Some of that might be due to some like ADR that they had to do, ADR work. There were like one or two moments where I kind of noticed that like a guy's mouth didn't really match the dialogue that was coming out of his mouth, and it kind of seemed like you were just expected not to notice. Like at the very end when that one guy is like I can't even remember what he says, but he says some like one character yells at another character. Doesn't another character have one character hostage or something like that?
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, like during that scene, one of the guy who has the other guy hostage like yells something at John Marston, and it's like the audio doesn't line up perfectly, and maybe like that happened throughout, but it was just masked well because the audio was synced right, and maybe that kind of made the performances feel stilted. But I thought like at least John Marston was good.
Yeah, like I don't know, he just seemed kind of distant and flat, but if that's the character, that's the character.
It makes more sense in the context of the game. When you play the game, you'd understand why it makes sense as a character trait.
Okay. Seth, I don't know, just kind of came off as a little bit on the silly side to me. And then there's the snake oil salesman. And, like, he's the most fun to watch because he's got the most energy out of the three of them, but I don't know. I can just tell he's giving a performance, and I usually don't care too much about actors in fan films. You get who you can get. But I just, you know, since I wasn't super invested in the story, I was starting to notice things that I usually just kind of let pass by me, I guess. And so the performances just seemed a little harder to watch this time. The fight, the actors that were like the henchmen or whatever, they did fine. They died believably without milking it too much. So that was cool.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. There's some. I guess I'd just say the performances were okay.
Yeah, I mean they weren't terrible. They were fine. I mean they were fine. They just weren't like great or anything.
Yeah, pretty much. Rasco, why don't you take us somewhere?
Oh my god, I don't know what to say. Oh, costumes.
Mm-hmm.
I think John Marston's costume looks pretty good. The only thing I would say is there's like a general lack of dirtiness on a lot of costumes, which I don't even think it's on everybody. I think there's certain characters look a little bit too clean, like specifically John Marston, but even then I don't really know how dirty he would really look.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of imagine the West and think of everyone as being really dirty. And when you watch movies like the most recent Magnificent Seven remake, it's like really grimy. Everyone's kind of like dirty, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how I expect the West to look. And it could look a little dirtier.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot. Like in the very beginning, when there's just like a general lack of weathering. I think, like when old dude's in the graveyard talking to the skeleton, it looked like they just got like a white skeleton out of a doctor's office, And I'm like, it's supposed to have been buried in like this open grave for however many years. They should have weathered that thing up, but if they got it from like a doctor's office, they probably weren't allowed to or whatever. But like, I follow this guy on YouTube. He does these really cool cosplays and like figure builds and stuff. And like weathering is so much easier than I ever realized. You want to know his trick for weathering?
Whoa.
Brown or black shoe polish. Just rub it all over and then dab it off with a cloth. That's all he does. And like it looks amazing every time. Just on anything. Brown or black shoe polish. Paints it on and then dabs it off the cloth. And it always seems to work for weathering. I don't know how, but Cosplay Chris,
Really?
Go check him out. Yeah, he just does that all the time on stuff. He's like, I'm gonna weather this with some. He's Australian, so I got to do the accent. I'm gonna weather this with some black shoe polish, and I know you're gonna flip out at me in the comments, but it's gonna look great, so I'm gonna keep doing it. And so, like, I don't know that the costumes, yeah, they're just like a little too pristine. But if you're renting stuff, I understand that. Because some of that I have to imagine they had to rent as opposed to buy outright or create. So I'd say if it's rented, it's excusable. If not, they probably should have dirtied it up. Okay, costumes. What'd you think of the practical effects, the blood, the makeup, stuff like that?
Interesting. I can't really remember exactly how I felt about it, honestly. I'm trying to think back. I don't really remember too much blood.
Well, like, there's that one really cool shot where he shoots the guy holding the other dude hostage.
Uh-huh. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to, like, scroll through it with the audio off right now.
Gotcha. La-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da.
I'm sorry, homie.
Yeah.
So what do you think about it, though?
I mean, I thought some of the blood and stuff looked really good. It's not like, you have the ridiculous levels of blood, like you get in Kill Bill and stuff, and like that can be fun and enjoyable on its own, but it's interesting to see stuff that's more minimalistic but still kind of brutal with the blood work. And just watching that guy get shot in the head, I mean, that looked legit.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I just saw it. I just watched that whole thing over again where he shoots all those people. Yeah, it's pretty legit.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with that. The way the Gatling gun, mowed them all down, and like you had like the car. Obviously they didn't shoot blanks out of a Gatling gun. It's just like a model, and then they did everything in After Effects. But like there's a card table with cards on it. And you have, like, dust coming up from the ground, and you have cards flying off the table. And it just looked really cool. That was really neat to see.
Yeah, I'm looking back at this, dude. One thing that's really cool, this is makeup, dude. Some of the makeup is pretty cool. Like, John Marston has the scars that he has on his face in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. The scars look really good.
Yeah,
they
and
look like real scars.
Yeah, and I saw with the guy playing Seth, he's got like really intense makeup to like make his eye look kind of like folded over or whatever.
Yeah, and his teeth.
Yeah, that looks
like,
pretty good too.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Good detail.
He does look like a person who's been searching for gold out in the desert for years and years, so...
Yeah, and the makeup on him is good. He's dirty enough. He looks dirty.
Yeah, he is the proper level of dirty.
Yeah, you got that dirty on him.
Okay, Rasco, you want to go ahead and move on to ratings then?
Sure thing, dude.
Okay. I will go ahead and give this fan film... I think 3 out of 5 is fair. I'm going to go 3 out of 5 Gatling guns.
I'm going to go 3.5 out of 5 glass eyes.
Okay. Alright, cool. We're going to break from tradition. Instead of doing a fan film next week, we're going to do a fan-made comic strip. Not a comic book, but a comic strip. It's called JL8, and I'm going to review, I believe, the first 52 or 54 strips. So it sounds like more than it's going to really be.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about the Justice League, but as 8-year-olds.
Awesome.
It's literally adorable. So, everyone, please join us next week for that one. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the beta male cuck.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.